What is up, Husky Bassheads? So what we're going to be doing today is improving or increasing the charging voltage of the Toyota Tundra. Now, if you haven't seen my walk around video of that, I encourage you to go watch it. It's up on my channel. But long story short, we've got two 18s in there on about 4,000 to 5,000 watts. Now, that truck is on stock electrical right now. We've got the stock alternator, which I believe is about 120 amps. Don't quote me on that. And two group 31, so I do have a secondary battery in there, but for what we're gonna call 5,000 watts, that really struggles. Like a full song of demoing and I'm down at like 11.8 volts, right? Like don't do that, that's not a good idea. So anyway, this video, we're gonna be bringing that up a little bit so that our amplifiers will work better and we'll get more power out of them. And these are the products that we're going to use to do that. So first and foremost, you've got the generator or the electrical generator of your car, the alternator. This is a Singer 320 amp. That should be more than enough for what we're trying to do. And we're also going to be building this. This is a boost harness, a voltage boost harness that plugs into this that basically tells your truck to charge at a higher voltage. I've also got a video on how to build one of those. Singer does build these, but I've got a video up on how to do that yourself if you want to watch that video. And we're going to be using this battery, this excess power group 31 14 volt. So this is not a 12 volt battery, this is a 14 volt battery, and the max charging voltage on that is close to 17 volts. There are videos where Steve Mead has these in his Tahoe and he's charging at like 17 volts. So these things can really take some charging voltage, and we're gonna have two of them, right? So one of them came out of this box, then there's a second one in that box, and then there's something special in that box, but that'll be another video. So anyway, two of the 14 volt group 31s. And then we've got this excess power step down module. So this basically takes your 16 volts and steps it down either 2.4 volts or 3.6 volts, depending on how you want to wire that up. So we're going to be running basically two sides. I really only want the amplifiers seeing the 16 volts. The rest of the truck I want on 13.5-ish. So that's what this is for, to bring the voltage back down. And so the way we're gonna do that is we're basically gonna set up a couple of different fuse boxes under our hood. We're gonna have one for the 16 volt side. Then we're gonna have a fused link going to our step down module and then coming back into here. And this is gonna act as our 12 volt side. So we're gonna have a 16 volt side and a 12 volt side. And then, I don't know, I might just mount this here just to give me another fuse if I need one. But anyway, that's the plan of what we're gonna do to get the voltage up in that truck. Okay, so what I was gonna do was mount the step down module right there. But that was kind of a pain in the butt. I don't know, it was just hard to get in there and I didn't want to mess with it, and I was gonna have to run the power wires off the back wall and I didn't want to do that. So we're gonna put it all together. What I did was pull off this, the fuse box lid, and where's the, Anyway, and this is what we have. Just a piece of painted MDF that I screwed onto the top of this lid here. See, we're gonna have our 16 volt side, our 12 volt side, and then the step down module is gonna go right here. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's sitting right there. So this is gonna go like this. See, like that. And that's all gonna sit right up there on the fuse box, right next to the battery. All right, another quick little update. Guys, you can see how this turned out. I forgot this goes to the fuse box, to the truck. Then I believe that it goes to the starter. This comes off the alternator. So, whoops. So basically what we're gonna have is 16 volt side here coming right off the battery post. Then we're gonna have 16 volts going into our step down module. Then 13.8, it's going to be dropped down to 13.8, coming into this, going to our truck, and then going to everything else, our other amplifiers and fuse boxes and whatnot that's in the truck. So 12 volt side, 16 volt side. So now what we're going to do is replace the alternator. Now, replacing the alternator on this truck is a pain in the butt because it is right there. You only have about this much space to pull that thing out of there. And it's mounted with 3 bolts. I believe it's 3 that go in from right here. So you basically got to just reach your hand in there and get at these bolts that you can't see. Anyway, huge pain in the butt. There are some videos online about how to do that specifically, so I'm not going to address that here. But basically you just have to remove your belt. And then you can get this out, you can get that out of there. So anyway, I'll update you guys once I get all that done. All right, another little update. I was not correct. Well, I got that alternator out, but about the way you pull that off. So as you can see, you get a very little space to pull that out of there. Pain in the butt. And you got 4 bolts holding it on. There's 2 of them there. There's 2 of them down there. One right there and 1 right there. All your blind holes are on this water pump. You got to pull the water pump off to get to the alternator. And all of there's 3 bolts, 14 millimeter, I believe, that all run this way, that are very difficult to get to and very difficult to see. But anyway, we got it done. Got the old one off of there. And this is a good opportunity to plumb our big 3 while we got all this pulled out. So, gonna have a great big power run here with this 4/0 welding cable. We're just gonna kind of run it across. I'm gonna zip all this up. You know, this isn't just gonna be draped across here, but I needed to make sure my run was long enough. And then it just kind of dives down there. And then we got plenty of length right here to run it to the alternator. And then our ground, of course, right here is gonna be on this side. Right there, and it dives down. Come on, focus, focus. It dives down right there, and then we got a spot on the frame that we're gonna mount it right there. So oh, there's that hose, there it is right there. You can see it right there. So the length is just fine. So it will be nice and grounded up and got a nice big power run. So one thing I've wondered about people doing the big 3, it's a good time to talk about this because I don't really understand this. People will run a big ground cable, and I had it like this too, like from the chassis of the alternator, like a great big 1/0 from like right here or right here or up there somewhere up to the battery. But that doesn't really make any sense to me because your alternator is grounded right to your engine block. I mean, talk about a ground. That's about as sturdy of a ground as you're gonna get. Why do you need to re-ground your alternator? That doesn't make any sense. Because I mean, look, it goes right to the engine block in 4 different places. And then your engine block is connected to your frame. And then your battery is grounded with this big welding cable to the frame. So, I don't know. Unpopular opinion maybe, that you don't have to run a ground from the alternator to the battery. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But anyway, just kind of the way I think about it, to me, it seems like it doesn't really make much sense. But there's an updated video. Gonna try to get this alternator put back in there, and then I'll update you guys after I'm able to do that. All right, so you can see we've got that alternator in there, and we've got this big welding cable coming off of it. We've got the factory charging wire right there coming off of it as well. Now you can see the reason you have to remove this water pump is because it goes right up in here in this slide. So it sits right in front of the alternator. So we're about to get that back on, and then the new alternator will be installed, of course, after we plug in the harness there. But anyway, got the Singer in, got the old factory one out. About halfway done with this thing. Okay guys, so now what we need to do is to address the charging voltage. Now what we're gonna do is use this. It's a little jumper. When you order a alternator from Singer Alternator, particularly for, I believe, a Toyota or a Lexus, he sends you this booster harness. Steve Mead has a video where he talks about this. It brings your charging voltage from 13.8 to like 14 something. Well, what I've done is I've basically pulled it apart just so I could see if it was what I thought it was. And it is, right? It's just a diode that is run in line with the sense wire, which must be this one. And then this must be your ground. These 2 wires get deleted. I don't really know what they do, but that's how this boost harness came, was with these deleted. So whatever, that's what we're gonna do. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove that diode, and I'm gonna run some of these diodes. This is the model number for those. Ordered them on Amazon. Got a pack of, oh, there it is right there, 100 of them. It is the same process, same diodes that I use to up the charging voltage in the Mitsubishi Mirage. That video is up on my channel if you guys want to watch that. So basically, I think I'm gonna use 6 of these, because I found that each one gives me about 1/2 volt. So we're going to use 6 of these, run in line with that sense wire, and then we'll plug it into the truck and see what kind of voltage we're getting. So guys, this is how you do this. I know it looks a little crude right now, but you can see all of these diodes have a little stripe on them. All the stripes need to be facing the same direction. And then all I did was I just took these little stems and I twisted them together, and then I'm going to be using these self-soldering heat shrinks to heat shrink all of those joints. And also remember, the stripe always has to be pointing towards the alternator. So on this plug, it is this plug, plugs into the alternator, so all the stripes need to be facing this way. Here is how this ends up coming out. I've got these diodes in here, and I use those self-soldering heat shrinks in here. And then I'm just going to run some other heat shrinks over it just to kind of protect it, and then rework this ground so that it's a little bit longer so that it matches the length of that. And then we're going to loom it all up and it'll be ready to go. Okay, so then the finished product is something like that. All right, got it all loomed. I got a whole layer of this Tessa tape underneath the loom. Then I Tessa taped it again. Pretty flexible. Kind of long, but I mean, about this much of it is those diodes. So I might have to put a loop or something in it and then zip tie it in place. But anyway, that's what you end up with. You plug one end right into the factory harness and then one end right onto your alternator. And that should up the charging voltage quite a bit. All right, so this is how that wiring harness goes. Basically take your factory harness. Let's see, this is really hard to do with one hand. And let's see, how does that go? See, hang on just a minute. Like that. So this is the factory harness that typically plugs into the alternator. Come on. There we go. But then you take your diode harness, plug it into the factory, and then this goes right onto the alternator. So it's gonna go right here. How does that go? Like this. There we go. All right, that should give us the charging voltage that we want. I just gotta kind of tie this up, zip tie it somewhere so that thing ain't hanging out of there. But you get the idea. And if for whatever reason this failed or you wanted to go back to factory, you just unplug it right here, plug the factory back into your alternator, and you're back at your factory charging voltage. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've got just a temporary jumper up to my truck bus bar. The reason for that is I need to have two gauges telling me my voltage, right? I'm gonna be using the factory gauge for my 12-volt side because that one's gonna be the one that's connected to the fuse box up front. And then my aftermarket gauge, I need to run to the 16-volt side. Well, the problem is I can't quite remember how this wire harness hooks up. So if you can see, I have it on this switch that is already on, I believe. I used a voltmeter to, you know, they've got these little where you can test here because my probes were too big to fit in there. But anyway, what I found was that this orange one and this red one are both 12 volt. The black one is obviously ground. I'm pretty sure this white one is illumination. But I'm thinking if I run a wire from my 6-volt side up through the dash and jump it into this, then that'll give me a reading on my 16-volt side. So I think that's how we're gonna run that. All right, guys, so we got the voltmeter wired back in. Let me show you what I did here. So I just took these 12, I just cut open this wire harness, took out these 12-volt leads, and spliced them together onto that yellow wire. And that yellow wire runs through my firewall up in there. Right, and comes out right there through that grommet. Comes around, and I'm going to attach it right to the battery terminal, which right now this is a 12-volt battery, but once I get my 16 volts in here, that is going to be reading the 16-volt side, and I just jumped it with a switch. See? Now, like I said, obviously it's going to say 11.8 there, but once I swap my batteries out, this will be my 16-volt gauge, and that will be my 12-volt gauge. All right, guys, so last step in this process is to put in the new batteries. So you can see what we got here. These 14-volt Group 31s by Excess Power. Of course, I've got 2 of them. Right, one is going to go under the hood, of course, to replace this full throttle. This was a good battery, but this thing won't take the charging voltage I'm going to put at it. And then we've got our secondary battery right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, right there. So that's where those AGMs are going to go. All right, guys, everything is installed. Nothing is buttoned up yet, but we got the alternator, got the big 3 coming off of that great big welding cable. Right there it is, right there, that big fat water hose you see right there. We got our 14-volt batteries, right? We got the alternator power right here. We've got these 3 running to our 16-volt side. Then we got 3 runs going to the back, as you can see there. Then we've got 16 volts headed to our step-down module. Then we've got it dropped down into this bus bar right here, fuse box. So the truck is running off of this, and then so are some other amplifiers and fuse blocks that I have in the truck there. So, and this wire here is to the voltage meter. I'll get all that cleaned up in a little bit. Right, and then got our secondary 14-volt battery right up in here. See that there? A little messy, but I can clean that up later. All right, so 2 Group 31s, 14 volts. Moment of truth, guys. Oh man, I'm kind of scared. These kind of things always scare me a little bit because you're never quite sure what's gonna happen, but we'll hit our voltmeter. Oh yeah, resting voltage, 14.7. So let's see what happens when we start this bad boy. What happened? Okay, try again. We're not getting the voltage we want for some reason. Man, rookie mistake, rookie mistake. Look at that. Oh, can you see it? Didn't have it grounded. I don't even know how this thing started. Anyway, let's get that ground hooked up and then we'll try it and see what it does. Okay, we got it grounded. We're gonna be adding a bigger ground to that later, but this is just for testing purposes. Come on, man. Big dummy didn't even ground it back. All right, now let's see what it does. So Let's hop in here. Resting voltage is 14.9. Okay, turn the key on. Why is that not increasing, I wonder? Something's not right here. We're gonna have to figure out what's going on. All right, guys. So I had to take a lunch break and just kind of regroup because I'm having all kinds of problems with this thing. Wouldn't charge above like 14.3. The resting voltage was like 14.9, and then I'd start it up, wouldn't charge above 14.3. I even would put in my Singer voltage plug that I had modified. Didn't make any difference at all. And so I found out why, and I don't know what this means, but basically on the Singer plug, I don't know if you can see it, yeah, he deletes two of these wires and then has a diode in the middle. I already took all my diodes out because nothing was working. And then I found the sense wire on my Toyota Tundra harness, and it is not the wire. It's like he crosses these. I don't know. I don't know what he did. It did work when it was sent to me by him, but I wanted to modify it, and I apparently don't understand how this works. So what I did, it's the same exact thing that I did on my Mitsubishi. I cut into the factory wire harness, which is right there. Let's see, I've already done it. So this is kind of just a little update, right? And then I added this 4-pin plug to the end of it. And then I'm gonna make my own jumper where I can put the diodes on the wire that I know is the sense wire, which is this black and yellow one. Then I can plug it in and out to return to factory as I need. Same exact setup as what is on the go-kart right there. I do have a video of that up on my channel, so if you guys want to see how I did that. But we're gonna try this, see if I can get this to work. Let me get to this and get this all wrapped up and soldered up, and then I'll let you guys know if it worked or not. All right, guys, so we're about 2 days into a project that was only supposed to take a few hours, but we've had some problems. Basically had to scrap my original idea of having the 2 voltage charging systems, the 16 volt and the 12 volt. Long story short, it's because that excess power step down module, it doesn't work. I was getting 16 volts out of the backside, just like what I was sending it to the front side. I mean, it wasn't dropping my voltage at all. I checked both the orange wire and the blue wire. I even probed it with my multimeter. Nothing. I mean, it was like it wasn't doing anything. And then I got on a couple forums and found out that those things are only good for 25 amps continuous. So to run a vehicle, you know, just to start your truck takes more than that. So if you just want to jump, you know, run that step down module to your fuse box, to operate your truck, which is, I'm assuming, what that thing was made for. It doesn't even carry enough amps to do that. Like I heard of guys buying 2, 3, 4 of them and running those together. Like, so I gotta buy 4 of these things just to get them to work properly. Anyway, so we scrapped the whole idea. Let me show you what we did end up doing. See, so we pulled this thing completely out. I'm gonna be sending that back because it literally did not work at all. Didn't drop the voltage even a little bit. So we've got just, one charging setup. Everything is coming in right here. That's our big 3 run down to the alternator. There's our switched fuse, voltmeter. Then we got our fused runs going to the back. Then we got our fused, this is to our fuse box right here. And then this is just to some other accessories. So we did have to drop the charging voltage a little bit. But that was an issue too, because my amplifiers didn't like the 16.5. They kept going into protect. I did have this up to 16.5 at one point, but like I said, then the whole truck was at 16.5 and that scared the crap out of me. And then my amps kept going into protect. So what we decided was, these batteries, in the instructions, it says that as long as the minimum charge is 2.1 volts per cell. These batteries have 7 cells in them. So that would be 14.7, right? Yeah, 14.7 minimum charge, 14.7 maximum charge is like 16.8. Well, we're not gonna get 16.8. We just kind of decided that already. But what we can do is kind of meet in the middle and get about 15.5. That's my goal anyway. So what we've done is we've made one of these, just like off of my Mitsubishi Mirage. There's diodes in here, 3 of them to be exact. That ended up being the magic number. And you can see I've got my harness that comes off the alternator spliced so that I can just plug this into it. If for whatever reason I have an issue with this, I can just plug this into that and go right back to factory mode. So let me plug this in and then I'll show you what the result is. Okay, so see, you have this here. I'm gonna zip tie that up there. Don't worry about that. I mean, that's not just gonna be hanging out of there. This is gonna be tucked away neatly. But let's grab the keys and see what happens. Okay, voltmeter's on. Looks like our resting voltage is about 14.7. Okay, give it a little bit of gas. Okay, so we're up in the 15s somewhere, right? We're not getting our battery alarm signal. Okay, and our amps are on and don't go into protect. So I think mid 15s is about what we're gonna have to be happy with. Which whatever. I mean, I'm happy with that. That's good enough to do what I'm trying to do. I was just hoping for a little bit more, but doesn't look like that's what we're gonna get. Alright guys, so as you can see, got everything put back on the truck, got the front tire on, got everything all zip tied up. I need to get that splash guard, must have lost it. Anyway, first thing in the morning here, probably about 50 degrees out. Let's just see what our cold start voltage is. Oops, well, that'll tell us what temperature it is. Let's see. right on the money, 50 degrees. Although I don't need that on. Okay. So, resting 14.7. Okay, 15.7 cold startup. And my amplifiers come on and don't go into protect. Okay. So guys, there you have it. There's the video. Wasn't exactly what I was hoping for my plan. You know, I was wanting this really sophisticated, like two-sided charging system, but you know, whatever. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I am more than happy with the 15.5, 15.6, 15.7 that I'm going to be getting. It will be way more than enough to power the 5,000 watts that I have in this car. So we can deal with that. That's fine. It will be plenty also to support the amplifier that I'm planning on putting in this car, which is probably going to be more like 8 to 10K, but that'll be for a future video. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. I hope this kind of inspired you to try a few of these things. And it just demonstrates that, you know, when you're doing stuff to your vehicle, or you're trying to get your vehicle to do things that it wasn't designed to do, you're gonna run into some hiccups. But this is how we learn, right? Trial and error. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, play your music loud, because if you don't, nobody's gonna hear you.